So they have their tribal law, and then they have, still fall in the United States since they're part of the United States. I think the issue with this is when Hawaii became a state, in the 14th Amendment, that they're part of the United States now. That there was no set tribe or set Hawaiian land that they could preside over. So the issue is that they're taking away the rights of the voters that aren't native Hawaiian, who are Hawaiian under the 14th Amendment because it's a state now, that they're not able to vote. So, open it up.
Well, I think this definitely is sort of like a reparation for the colonialization and annexation of Hawaii in the late 1800s. So I think in that aspect, forming a Hawaii national government is great, but does it violate the Constitution? I mean, it's a matter of interpretation, so I guess that's why.
So I think the issue on why it would violate the Constitution is because they're only letting the native
Yes.
Hawaiians vote on this, and
Yes.
it's not opening the voting rights to all Hawaiians.
Yes.
Whether you be Hawaiian because you lived here for the past 10 years or because you were born here.
Yes, so I do understand that, so.
So you would.
So at the same token, for the Native Americans, they wouldn't allow like a white person who's lived in whatever state to vote for their national government.
Because they already have a set government to government.
Yeah, and that's mostly just on the reservation.
But isn't it still fair then that only Native Hawaiians can vote whether or not that Native Hawaiians are getting
So
taught?
the issue there lies in 1950 when Hawaii became a state under the 14th Amendment, that everybody is now part of the United States. They didn't have already a set government to government. So every citizen of Hawaii is now a citizen of the United States, and there was no set tribe or tribal law for that.
It would go back to a monarchy.
So what they're doing is only allowing the Native Hawaiians to vote, or wanting to only allow the Native Hawaiians to vote, and then disregarding every other person that claims or is actually Hawaiian because they were born here with their birthright. under the
There's
14th
only
Amendment.
one Hawaiian by bloodline.
Okay, but so if you're born here under the 14th Amendment, you are a Hawaiian citizen
Negative.
of the United States.
No. Hawaiian by right is a bloodline. Okay?
Thank you.
You're born Hawaiian, you live Hawaiian, you die Hawaiian. That's it. Anyone else born here, whether they moved here, they lived here for 30 years, they're
100 years.
descendants of people that have settled here, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so I see you take it that it should be constitutional, that only these people, only Native Hawaiians, because of that bloodline, should be able to vote on this.
I have an interesting question, just because, I mean, I have only been on the island for 2 years. I understand when I was going through and I was house hunting and stuff like that, there are only certain houses that are available for purchase by a person who is at least 50% Native Hawaiian, right? Yeah, exactly. So would this voting ability and status be based on your percentage of, I guess, the percent of your blood is Native Hawaiian as well?
So, to deem necessary for voting, I can read this off to you guys, there's this would restrict voters to those with certain racial characteristics, and that's why they're saying it's unconstitutional, because it shouldn't be a vote, a race vote. And further, these who want to participate must affirm that they affirm to relinquish sovereignty of the Native Hawaiian people and intend to participate in the process of self-governance. That they have a significant culture, social, or civil connection to the Native Hawaiian community, and that they are Native Hawaiian, a lineage descendant of the people who lived and exercised sovereignty in Hawaiian Islands prior to 1778, or a person who was eligible for the program of the Hawaiian Home Commission Act 1920, or a direct line descendant of that.
Hey, Mom, real quick question. I've heard this before. Is it true that if you were born in Hawaii, in the kingdom of Hawaii, you were therefore a Hawaiian citizen, correct?
No, it goes back to when you have to prove your family lineage before, like you said, 1778.
No, I heard that was in the original Hawaiian Constitution. If you're, even regardless of race, if you're born in the kingdom of Hawaii, you're a Hawaiian citizen.
Because when you look at stuff like Kamehameha Schools, Oha, Hawaiian Homestead, you actually have to be Hawaiian to go there.
Yes,
okay,
Even
but
homestead is a
what it's
percentage.
talking about is the US Constitution, not so much the state
Right.
constitution. When you're born in Hawaii, since it's a state of the United States, you have constitutional rights under the United States Constitution. That you should be able to vote, that paper's made it around, vote on anything after you've reached a certain age, which they're not allowing any US citizen to vote on this act. It's only Native Hawaiians from that lineage or whatever.
Right.
Should be.
I think we really have to consider though the definition of native versus indigenous, and as well as a Hawaiian versus what we call other residents of the states. Like, I am a resident of Florida, so therefore I'm a Floridian. However, there was never a Floridian indigenous person. So you have to be really like careful on how you define these two, because it is, if you're talking about indigenous Hawaiians as in a people, an ethnicity, a race, then that is, it's already unconstitutional to regard them as a residency of anything.
So what that was talking about, and that's from the lawsuit, was the indigenous people being the people before 1778, and then considering them a tribe. It also states
But
that
they're
they weren't a
they're
tribe.
considering them unconstitutional because Hawaiians as a resident, not Hawaiians as an indigenous people.
That's not what they're saying is unconstitutional. The voting aspect of this is what's being unconstitutional.
But
Having
the
the right
voting is
to
for
vote,
the indigenous people of Hawaii.
to allow a state-to-state government.
So they would be their own independent nation?
So they would have tribal law like the Navajo Nation would have.
Okay, so it'd be similar to how a Native American reservation is run?
Exactly.
It would be a government within a government.
Yes.
So therefore, citizens, or residents, Hawaiian residencies shouldn't, it's not in that definition.
But then that's what violates the Constitution because it doesn't allow everybody to vote, and they're only doing Native Hawaiians, or allowing Native Hawaiians to vote, that's why there's this lawsuit. Barry?
I would say, speaking to those facts, that yes, it should be unconstitutional. Because I feel the Hawaiian tribes, or, whatever, like, just like the Navajo Nation you're talking about, should have been established before they were a state. Why are we going back now? That's my question.
Well, how do you establish, how is it established?
There was a monarchy,
There was a monarchy.
and then there was an overthrowing, and then there was.
So I believe it's unconstitutional as long as they fall under the United States of America, they fall under the United States Constitution. If they want to limit voting rights, then if this passes and they become their own state government, they can establish their own constitution. But until that happens, they have to abide by the US Constitution. So if they're violating that by limiting voter rights on a basis of their race, then it's unconstitutional.
One more.
I would agree with what they said. By the Constitution, it would be unconstitutional. However, this is a little bit of a unique circumstance because, first of all, like it says, Native Hawaiians are the last group of indigenous people. Hawaii is really unique in that it's not just a state; it's an ethnicity, and and they're Native people. Also, the annexation wasn't legal, and so that then you have to question like how much does the Constitution actually apply, and like, can you make exceptions because it wasn't a legal annexation? So it makes it tricky. It makes it not so cut and dry.
So we're going on to local military. This is gonna talk about some stuff. I know we never really talk about that much for this, but what our brothers and sisters up the street are doing. This was a little clip from last week's, I guess it was 2 weeks ago. I know some of you guys went out to, I don't know which battalion it was, their live fire exercise.
Never did.
Never one officer. Okay, well, you'll get to see some of their live fire exercise here. And this is focusing mostly on their medical aid. This is 2nd Battalion, or 127, Stryker Battalion. And it was on KITV.
This afternoon with those 8-wheeled striker vehicles. And a large part of that training involves making sure injured soldiers get back home alive. KITV4's Andrew Pereira joins us now from Israel.
Where's the future med service platoon leaders? Raise your hand, med service.
Battle tactics used in
Pay
today's
attention.
exercise goes back decades. The only difference is better equipment and better training with remarkable results.
High five.
This is what combat looks and sounds like. This capabilities exercise at Schofield Barracks pitted an enemy force country of Denovia against members of the 2nd Brigade Combat Team. Our troopers fighting for Atropia, another make-believe country.
You'll hear that a lot in your career.
To help defeat the Denovian forces that had attacked into their sovereign nation.
Although the enemy was fake, the howitzer shells, mortar rounds, and bullets were all real. Just like live combat, casualties are always an issue. That's where the so-called golden hour comes into play, and there's no time to waste.
That first hands-on the casualties when that golden hour starts, that's going to prolong and give a better chance of survivability off the battlefield.
Once an Army medic reaches the patient, that's when a Stryker medical evacuation vehicle motors into action. Within minutes, the wounded soldier is loaded inside, and on board, highly trained medics with the most advanced medical equipment available.
The medics on board have time to see if there's any additional wounds.
Who's responsible for training medics?
Combat, that initial treatment.
From there, the wounded soldier is taken
Med Service Platoon Leaders.
point, a safe zone where a UH-60 Blackhawk can land.
Responsible though.
However, that tends to change by the time that's reported on the radio once you actually get to the land.
The concept of the golden hour dates back to the Vietnam era, and lessons learned from that conflict and others has drastically improved survivability rates of casualties once they reach a field hospital.
Medical in the Army has come far in the last 10, 13 years thanks to Iraq and Afghanistan. So I think it was 88%, 84% originally, and then as the wars progressed, we're nearly perfect with our survivability rate.
A remarkable 98% survival rate once a casualty reaches a combat hospital.
Ultimately, we know something bad is going to happen.
So this wasn't really supposed to be to open up for discussion, just something for us to think about for our upcoming LDX and then into next semester's LDXs. How can we implement this type of training or medical training to sustain this 98% survivability rate for our 1s, 2s, and 3s to learn from? That's just something, I know we never talked about Schofield Barracks a lot, and they're right here, so wanted to put that in there. Next slide. Oh yeah, and so for you guys going Guard and Reserve, they're at 25th ID is also having a career fair this Friday from 10 to 1400 at the Nia Line Banquet and Conference Room up there on Schofield Barracks. So it's open to everybody. If you're looking for a job still and you're going Guard and Reserve, this career fair might be for you. And then next we have Cadet Dela Cruz with Global News.
Hello, good afternoon class. I'm Cadet Dela Cruz and I'll be covering global news and global military. Next slide please. We'll start with global news. Typhoon Kopu is a category 4 equivalent that hit the northern part of the Philippines last Sunday morning. The typhoon is the strongest typhoon that hit that portion of the country in 5 years. Philippines is not really a stranger to typhoons as the country gets approximately 20 typhoons each year. Typhoon Kopu is the 12th this year. The typhoon brought massive amount of rain that caused flooding and landslides. The farmers up north, their field crops are completely drenched in water, and the power communication lines are completely destroyed, and the flooding and landslides are preventing the military vehicles to reach those villages that are affected by the typhoon, making it so difficult for them to conduct their search and relief operations.
Anybody in here have family in the Philippines?
That's why I covered this, because some of us are from the Philippines. My family are actually from up north. Their farms are completely destroyed, but luckily they're all safe, and I hope your families are too. Who's still communicating with their friends or have families in the Philippines? Cindy, is your family okay? They're from South though.
They're in middle.
Roger. So up north, it's completely destroyed right now. There's no communication. There's no electric right now. So, and it's hard for military to reach those villages because because of the landslides. And like I said, I covered this because some of us are from the Philippines, and actually some of the Army divers that are stationed here in Hawaii are put on standby this weekend. And PACOM is always ready to provide relief and recovery support for the Philippines when this natural disaster happens and all over Asia. Moving on to the global military. Okay, drones. As we all know, it's an unmanned aerial vehicle operated by pilots on ground or computers that are pre-programmed with missions. There are different types of drones. Drones that are used for intelligence and surveillance, drones that are weaponized, which they can carry missiles and bombs, and there are also drones that can do both. They're weaponized and they can also conduct intelligence and reconnaissance operations. Drones are very effective in targeting individual targets. United States and a lot of countries have been using or used drones in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and currently in Syria. Russia is actually sending more of their drones right now in Syria to support their operation. Drones are not only used during combat missions. Drones can actually be utilized during humanitarian efforts. They are used to go to places where it's hard for people to get into, or dangerous areas where people can't go into. For example, the villages in the Philippines right now, some of the villages are blockaded by the landslide, so the drones can fly over and conduct assessments in the area. Drones can actually be used to drop off the relief supplies for those victims. Increasing the use of drones in military and humanitarian operations. I have a question. What effect did drones have on these soldiers in conducting their mission?
I read an article that the bathroom right here on.
That's why I put those in there. Finally. Yes.
No, it was really a good article.
That's why I put them in there. So you actually, who else? You guys reading them? Yes.
Sorry.
Wait. Are there some in the female bathroom?
No.
Okay. You need to get some freaking female magazine things in the damn female restroom.
I'm just glad to know who takes so long.
All right, go ahead.
So I read an article based on the increase in drones from 700 to more than 14,000 now in the U.S. arsenal.
Yeah.
And not only does it save soldiers' lives, but it can also assist in humanitarian aid. And the capability of the drones now are not only for aerial aerial reconnaissance, but also to assist in aid in dropping, anything from humanitarian aid to a missile. So I think
you brought up a great question. So, does the Army have drones?
yes, sir.
Okay, what kind of platoon leaders potentially are going to have drones?
Cyber.
Killer Tug.
MI infantry has drones. Small drones.
So are we just spitting out branches? Or someone actually?
Finance.
Are those Air Force or are those Army?
Army.
That's Air Force.
They have
Sir.
we have.
Oh, no, are those up there Air Force or Army?
Those are Air Force.
Okay.
Army has the ones,
Yes.
Army have their own
What is that?
UAVs, smaller ones, Predators.
Drones,
Predators.
I know it's both used by the Air Force, Army, and also CIA.
Okay.
I believe the Army uses the MQ-9 Predator,
Okay.
and
Okay. Has any of you guys gotten on our Blackboard page and looked at the unit or branch unit slides, briefings that the cadets did last year? Huh? No more for next year? Oh, so I shouldn't have said that? Well, what I wanna do, I mean, we're at this question, what I'd like someone, maybe next week when we do this, who's got next week? All right, Sanga, good. Hey, so next week, bring in here some Army drones and what platoons they're in and what branches are gonna own them, okay? And what types there are, all right?
yes, sir.
And then, Wilson, since you're an Air Force junkie, if you wanna bring in and talk about some Air Force stuff, my bottom line is I want you guys to be a little more understanding on if you're gonna be a future platoon leader, you might have some drones, and you will. Okay, I heard some of the branches, that I was looking for. Okay? So I'm sorry, go back to your question, that's a good question.
I think, I don't know what the full capabilities of the drones are, but I know that, or I can assume that they'll take away a high number of casualties as far as American soldiers go if they can do our jobs.
Yeah.
But at the same token, you won't give infantrymen a job for one, and then two, if there's no one on the ground that can, I don't know if like,
Yes,
Jones can
orders.
see if there's kids or civilians in the area and stuff
You
like
can't
that, or
see.
they just know there's
Depends
a
on
mission and they
the-
just.
the
I don't
asset
think
that
you
you're
understand
using.
how drones are deployed.
Yeah.
I don't, that's why I said I don't know the full capability of drones, sir.
Well, they'll always need us.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah, you always need a spotter and an operator.
No, I meant an infantryman.
Clear. Roger,
There'll
sir.
always need someone to hold ground.
Yeah, because you need your exploitation still. So as soon as you do your targets, you still
But
need
like
to
to
do
make,
exploitation.
maybe like a person on the ground to make that moral,
Information.
ethical decision of whether or not to do something last minute. I don't know if the drone can do that or whatever, but. I don't know.
One of the ways we've used drones, in units I've been in, the small drones, like the Raven, so they'll throw it in the air and fly it for a little while drone.
It's not big, it's a little bigger than that, yeah.
Right. But we've used that to like watch over an objective when their infantry is conducting raids. And then we, make sure that there's no squirters like running out off the objective.
And
If
they can
somebody,
actually cause squirters too.
So, task and purpose, so you're using them for early warning, you're using them to maybe thwart an enemy attack, you're using them to understand, to see first, to understand first, all that kind of stuff, right? Does that make sense?
yes, sir. But we still needed infantry.
And then just to add on top of that, we've used drones as well, as a retrans too, so if we couldn't set up an antenna anywhere on the ground, we would just throw a Raven up.
Shoot, one of my fellow company commanders up here at 25th ID, when the mountain was on fire last year or whatever, he actually flew drones in, had his company fly their drones up there to help out with the aircraft that were dumping water, to try to put out the fires and stuff like that, find hotspots and things like that, use our IR sensors, pretty cool.
I have one more question. It was, the drones are compared to video games, like how this affecting the soldiers' emotions by killing. Because it's impersonal, apparently. So how do you guys think about that?
Just watch that one movie that just came out.
Yeah.
Say that again?
Like how is that affecting the emotions of the people that are actually operating their drones, sir, killing the people versus face-to-face search?
Versus,
I feel like,
Yes.
I don't think it matters. Like snipers kill people from like miles away all the time. Through a scope.
True.
I mean, like not like miles, but like a long distance.
Have you ever looked through a scope though?
Well, I mean, yeah, you can look at, you see them through your scope, but you see them through like a screen too. It's the same thing.
So maybe the sniper wasn't the best analogy, but maybe like somebody in a tank, or Bradley who's using, or somebody using the Crow system, using a remote controlled system to eliminate the enemy.
I don't think it has any matter on how you're doing it, it's all on you. So whether you're sticking someone in the side of the head with a freaking pencil, or jabbing a freaking bayonet into someone's chest, like in, or doing this, I mean, it's how you deal with it.
Yeah, I want to reference the book on killing, the psychological cost of learning to kill by Lieutenant Colonel Grossman. So basically, he just said that humans have natural aversion to like just stabbing or killing people. But so one thing that he says in there is that like with increased distance costs comes less guilt. So it's a lot easier to be a sniper from far away or like shooting from a helicopter. In this case, you're gonna be like probably miles away. So.
Well, you're gonna be across the country because usually
Yeah,
they
across,
pass it
yeah.
on.
You can't really.
Like Creech. I'm sorry.
No, so I'm just saying it's probably a very little effect on their psyche if they kill somebody.
I'll go with Bucket and you.
I think what you're trying to get at is that it makes it easier.
Yes.
So like, if I'm doing something from a video game, just like I'm doing on Call of Duty, but people do on Call of Duty, that emotional, and I guess it doesn't
That's
need to be an emotional connection because if you're killing a bad guy, but it does, like, it's taking the emotions away from a person if you're, have a video game. And I think that does affect people
It was compared.
in a lot of different ways than if it did if you were shooting. It makes you, I'm gonna say it makes you more of having those kind of aspects of a killer.
Yeah.
But when you're not able to put emotions with what you're doing, then you're further removed from, and you can do a lot of things without
said.
having feelings for it. So I think that's what you're trying to get at.
You can't ever say this one person shouldn't feel anything when they're talking about taking somebody's life. No matter how you're doing it, you're taking a human life. And that is going to affect everybody. It's gonna affect all of you if you ever have to do it differently, or if you ever have to
Not
make.
if they're running and hiding and whatever we're doing on campus or in our community, but if they run, hide.
Run high.
So
I'll go
yeah,
with Morales and then you.
people are gonna feel the effects differently, so you can't say, no, they shouldn't feel emotional about it.
I just wanted to say that it's, whether it's behind a screen or face to face, you're still doing a calculated decision. Even, I mean, you have politicians that obviously everybody makes decisions, whatever occupation you have, and some have more responsibility than others, and some are more accountable than others, obviously. But politicians make decisions all the time that completely can eradicate a country and can salvage a country. And having it be that you utilize a drone or not, it's still a calculated decision that affects you. At least if you're a decent human being anyway.
All right, I'll take one more question.
I had a classmate last year at HBU who had prior service as a drone operator, and he hadn't stabbed anyone in the head with a pencil, so he didn't have that to compare to, but he had killed people with drones, and he really resented the idea that there was an emotional disconnect, because he thought he felt too emotional with that. So, that's just one person.
It's easy to judge when you haven't experienced it for yourself, isn't it?
Are the references? Any feedback, guys?
I enjoyed how you tied in the drone humanitarian part into what happened in the Philippines and how drones can be of assistance into the Philippine disaster.
Anything else?
Yeah, the transitions are smooth and the content, I feel like that would open up some of like the biggest discussions we've had in all the current events. And both you guys seemed calm when you guys were talking, especially Josh, like a lot of different kind of facts were coming about the Hawaiian government, like especially you not being from Hawaii, you still kind of knew your topic and were able to answer all those questions, so it was a solid job.
You see that judge is gonna do the thing today?
Yeah, it resides today.
Is that mainland or Supreme Court?
It's federal
Not, it's a
court.
nice
I like that it was multi-dimensional, so that you guys had videos, you had slides, you had handouts, so I thought that's always added training value when you have something to look at and multiple things to kind of figure out.
One more.
I just want to say, we're always concerned with our time restrictions, but
Yeah.
the fact that your content is, you engaged everyone in the room, you had really, pertinent questions, and obviously it brought up a discussion. So, yeah, we have to kind of stick with a little bit of time restraints, but I think the quality of the information was valid.
Thank you.
Remember when we set this up, and one of the biggest things I wanted to see was how does it impact us as future officers? So how did these guys do is driving that emotion in us about really impacts us? Whether it's Hawaii versus federal government, or it's, Philippine families, or it's, the fact that we're drunk, pretty good, right? So you guys see that? See how that drew us into a conversation? Or we could probably, I let this go for 30 minutes because it's good, right? We could probably let this go for another 30 minutes, right? Keep talking about it, how many drones and, Unfortunately, you got only lucky for 2 hours, and we've got some other things, but I thought that was really good. So I think that was the standard.
That was the best one we've seen.
I think you guys agree on that was the best one I've seen. I think that's pretty close to the standard. So you said videos, different mechanisms, different ways to capture us, have us, cause us to think, right? Make sense? Anything else? Okay, good job. All right, so before we move on, Cat Moore, like I said before I came in, don't tell them what I said. That's our secret. But after we talk about this, what we're going to talk about, then pay attention, okay? But let's talk about our peer events. Because Cat Moore and I have gone back and diligently gone through every single one of them. Okay? So let me just ask this, are peer evals a valuable tool? Yes. So you say yes. Why? The yeses say, give me some feedback, why? Yeah.
Sir, it helps you, it helps you as cadre see certain things that you guys cadre may miss. Well,
Is it about me?
oh, no, sir.
Oh, so what does the peer eval have to do with me?
Oh, it shows you what we see, some certain aspects from our peers, or what we may think of our peers, sir.
Okay, hey, look, well, no. Hey, look, so the fact that we are cadre, and the fact that, you know, in order for the information to be evaluated and processed and consolidated, there has to be someone to do that, okay?
Yes, sir.
But what you guys will quickly find is that you're gonna find out what your peers think about you.
Yes, sir.
This isn't about me or Captain Morton or any of my cadre. This is about you and you and you and you and you and you and you. And how does that work? How do you think you are in an organization and as part of the team? And what your peers think of you as part of the team? Who thinks that's valuable? Yeah. Okay? So, I'm with you, Dater, but I just want you to understand
Yes, sir.
the purpose behind it.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I
You were
think-
gonna say something?
Just, it gives you a different perspective that you obviously can't see in yourself.
Okay?
I think to add on to what Dave's saying is that we can take the constructive criticism for those that actually put decent comments and learn from that and develop ourselves as leaders at the same time from a peer's perspective, because I know most of us go to cadre behind the scenes and try to get leadership guidance from them too, but when we get our own peer's perspective, it helps us kind of open up our left and right limits to what we need to improve on, like from what they see compared to
Okay.
just.
All right, what else? Spit it out, just, come on.
People will say things on paper that they won't say.
Okay?
Unfortunately.
Is it valuable? Is it a valuable tool?
Yes, sir.
You guys, who does not think it's a valuable tool? And it's okay, guys, remember, we're family, I wanna talk. Yeah, Pat, why do you not think it's a valuable tool?
Well, I think it could be valuable if there's quantitative measurements, such
Okay.
as, I mean, I don't know, like just something that's quantitative that,
Okay.
that will,
I think that's important, right?
it's not measurable so that it's
Sure.
not subjective. So for example, like, you know, I may not like a certain race or like a certain age or male, female, whatever.
Right.
And that'll like, no, I'm not saying race necessarily, but I'm just saying like, that could affect the way you see somebody. Just purely on that very superficial effect.
That's dangerous.
That's a dangerous statement.
So you're saying I think what you just said, was, I'm going to potentially evaluate you based on your race. Or your gender.
Well, we all have prejudices.
Yeah, everyone has prejudice, it's not just race.
I don't like your slanted.
Like, I don't like people from Ohio State, right? So, anyways, but, so just basically, and also, you know, there's cliques that form, so basically, they're gonna help support their friends or circle of friends and lift them up. So if there's a ranking involved, they're gonna obviously rank them higher, and people that they don't like.
Okay,
Or someone who rubs you the wrong way, you know?
okay, so do we agree with Pop?
No.
No, I feel, sir, that in a class as large as ours, in a class as large as ours,
If something is consistent, then there must be some truth in it.
Okay.
I think if one person doesn't like me and they write something, the consensus of the room will kind of average it out.
Okay, Gwen?
I was gonna kind of say that I can agree with Pog on that, because I mean, there are just personal clashes with people where maybe if you ask someone to, I don't know, quantitatively rate somebody on a number scale, things might not show up as if you were like, oh, what do you think about this person? It's a very open-ended question. As far as our peer evals go, that was very open-ended, and you can say a lot of things about someone, and that might be more just like, hey, I don't get along with this person, but their leadership might not be lesser than other people's just because you don't get along with them.
Hey, so some of the feedback, and for those of you that took the time to actually provide, hey, I might not like this person, but they're a darn good leader, and here's why. We might not get along, so those of you that actually took the time and the professional, to be a professional, actually provide some feedback in that block and write something out, good job on you. For those of you that didn't, shame on you. Shame on you that you didn't take the time to do that. Some professional feedback for your brother or your sister on your left and your right.
Which is 69%.
How much?
69% of the class.
Did not?
Did not.
So 69%, talking about percent, we got a bunch, we're gonna get into it. 69%
Your Huckleberry.
of you guys failed to give each other some positive, just some feedback in writing. So all we did was, we just circled yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, submit, there you go, have a nice day. Thanks a lot.
Or didn't submit at all.
Or didn't submit it all. Okay, yes ma'am.
Sir, my only, I understand that, but that assignment was due on the LDX weekend,
Okay,
and it wasn't given to us until later in the
okay.
week.
Lieutenant, that is
Yes,
never
sir.
gonna be an excuse, that you
Yes,
didn't have
sir.
enough time. I am not gonna micromanage your time. I'm gonna give you something, and my assessment of how you can suck that egg and figure that out is gonna be how that happens, okay? You are never gonna have enough time, ever. There are reasons why we do certain things, okay? So what could you have done? Could you have requested some more time?
Yes, sir.
Did you?
No, sir.
All right, next question. Yes, ma'am.
Not a question, but more.
I don't mean to be, I'm not being disrespectful,
Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to be absolutely blunt, because your company commander down the road and your battalion commander is not gonna care,
Yes, sir.
okay? And what I'm trying to force a lot of you to do, which a lot of you guys suck at, is this thing called communication. Please write it on the board, Doug. Communication. Man, everything is gonna be okay if you just freaking communicate. That's like, you know, a new C word, man. Communicate, all right.
Buzzword for the week.
Yes, ma'am.
When I was filling out the evaluation, I found myself having a hard time trying to figure out what I want to say to this person.
Okay.
Because it's not like I don't have a personal relationship or I don't talk to that person enough, but I don't analyze your leadership compared to others, because like others I see, like per se, like one person I actually want to analyze because I see something really good in them.
Okay. Okay.
So like when I was filling it out, I had to put like who I think is on the
Yeah.
top, who I think is the bottom.
I could tell that you took some time, Cadet Varela, to kind of, you know, demonstrate, or at least, you know, put down what you know, those traits.
So my final point is like, I feel bad for not saying like what I need to say for that person, because I don't really.
So so what you're saying is there's a difference between I don't like you and here's some constructive criticism to make you better.
Yes, sir.
So isn't that kind of what a peer eval is? Is a peer eval a bad thing? So was it a bad thing? Was it a bad thing here? Was it a bad thing here? Yeah.
I think one of the things that probably wasn't necessarily helpful or constructive was having to rank our peers in order from
Why?
1 to 39.
Why?
Because I provided no constructive criticism, no value to who they are as an individual, who they are as a person,
that was
only
the
that
assignment.
they might be better.
That was the assignment, is to rank and write.
Right, for an assignment purposes, it was the assignment, sir, but as far as doing a peer eval for the sake of a useful tool to help us.
Oh,
You haven't received your counseling on it yet.
You
No,
will.
I haven't.
So
Yeah. So it's very useful, not yet. It's very useful, trust me, I'm like holding him back. It's very useful, and it's gonna be very useful when we, Captain Warren and I sit down with every single one of you here, okay? As soon as, well, when are we doing it? When did we say?
I was heading to it.
After LDX?
Yes, sir.
So after the LDX, we have a whole month there, after the LDX, to sit down with every single one. Okay, the priorities to those who are commissioning, okay, and then everybody else. We're gonna sit down, I want you to know, okay, because if you need to, all right, and you need to do it here now, okay, that's absolutely important, all right? So I wanna go back real quick, so we're saying it's valuable, okay, and again, guys, there's things that we're doing that don't necessarily make sense sometimes, but they will, I promise you, okay? I promise you they will, okay? And it just, sometimes the light will go on a little bit quicker for some of you, okay? And so we're on a glide path for 95% of you to have another semester here, okay? Does that make sense? So some of the things we're doing now and how we feel about each other and how we evaluate each other now at the beginning of the semester, when everything we do is we're trying to build a team, right? But in reality, what it says on paper is, man, we are nowhere near a team, right? We are nowhere near a team, okay? And you look at some of the things that we've been doing recently, you know, some of the events that we do to kind of determine whether or not we're a team or not. I gotta tell you, this peer eval was a great way for us to kind of look at how effective we're being as an organization, as an MS4 team. Go ahead, Warren.
So we owe to to live on everything?
No, I don't wanna do that yet. So I just wanna establish what we've got. So we've got peer evals are valuable, correct? We have, what, a small percentage that say no because of clicks and some other things, but we kind of went back and said, no. I mean, with the amount of size we have, it should kind of even itself out. Are we all in agreement on that? What do you think, Barry?
Roger, I think, I think peer evals are extremely valuable for the top 25% and the top bottom 25%. I think a lot of times in the peer eval system, that middle 50%, like almost a gray area, maybe I don't really know too much about one person or the other person. That may be consensus throughout the battalion.
Absolutely.
One person may or may not, and then they get put in that gray area where they're not at the top, they're not at the bottom.
Yeah.
They're kind of in that floating, so I think that middle 50% almost gets lost in translation.
I agree, if you allow it to, okay? I agree if you allow it to. Yes, we are able to percentage, he's gonna give you a bunch of percentages. We're able to see who the top 25%, or at least what you guys think top 25%. We're able to see that bottom 25% as well, right? So, but what I want you to understand is as we sit down, that middle 50% is critical, okay? Because either you're not, why? Why do you think that 50% is critical? Anyway, I don't wanna give you what I think, so you tell me what you think.
Well, I think that middle 50% is hit or miss for them.
Okay.
Because that may be in the gray area, I never see this person too much, I don't really know too much positive to write about them, I don't know too much negative to write about them, they're just kind of floating there in the middle.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe they may need more work, maybe they're doing an outstanding job, I, as an individual, may not interact with them on a daily basis, so I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
But they fall in my middle, and they may be like that for a couple other people.
Okay.
So that their value of their rating almost gets lost from my perspective, and it may happen to people,
I agree.
3 people, 4
I
people.
absolutely agree, but you are one of 40.
Yeah, I understand, sir, and that's, like Barry said, this percentage of the class is huge, but it's gonna be consistent who people see in the top 25, or who people see in the bottom 25.
Right.
It's just sometimes, they may be in that 26, 27, 28, but, or that bottom end.
Okay.
That might be.
I'm sorry, I had one over here.
So I was just gonna ask, is there a reason that we did it between the first and second LDX and not after the second LDX, sir? Or is just the way the school semester worked out?
Well, we didn't really look at it when, during the semester, when it laid out. We're doing one at this semester, and then we're gonna do one at the next semester as well, to kind of see what we've learned about each other. I just kind of gave that away, but that's okay. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, we had so in CLC we had the online peer evaluation, but our cadre kind of, and we as well, pretty much said, hey, he asked us a question, did you really get anything out of that online one? Did he give you any feedback? And the majority of us really were like, okay, we were just doing it just to do it because we had to.
Right.
So we did a peer evaluation amongst ourselves, but like this, in this setting, face to face, where we would do constructive criticism, honest constructive criticism, and we would actually see the person that we're talking about. And honestly, we got so much more out of that than anything written or online or anything like that.
Yeah. So I think that works because you have not had enough time to get to know each other. And so you can be constructive with somebody that I just met a month ago, right? Because I can be, you know what I mean? But you guys know each other. So a lot of the critique and the evaluation on each other was personal and not constructive. And that's a sign. That's like, man, it was personal. This way.
We also did a similar exercise what Morales was talking about at CLC, and I thought it was also easier to do that and be honest with people because you knew you were gonna have to see them after like 3 days. So after 3 days, even if you said something really bad about them and they didn't like it, I'm probably not gonna see you for a couple more years at best.
Yeah, I can see why it would be a little bit easier at CLC to kind of.
But wouldn't it take away the personal, sir? And make it to where it's
Yeah.
you're doing it for constructive.
That's great, yeah. But we can't do that here because we are personal. We're a family. You know what I mean? We're all in this together. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, but that's kind of what we were looking. I mean, we weren't really looking for that, but as the data came out, I mean, guys, there's a lot of you in here that really don't like each other. But I don't understand that. Are you not all trying to achieve the same goal? Together? Are you guys not all are you guys all not going to be commissioned officers? I'm not ever saying that you have to like each other, but gosh darn, you need to respect each other. I mean, this, you know, this is just a smaller portion of the Army family. I mean, we just talked about drones, and, you know, I'm sitting here thinking about, you know, all different kinds of crazy stuff. I'm sure Cap Morton is, I'm sure, you know, folks that have been in combat are thinking about all kinds of experiences having, and all I can think about is my brothers and my sisters that I, you know what I mean? And they're guys just like you. They're guys just like you. So peri-vals are a valuable tool, okay? I think they're constructive. Let me ask you a question. I know we said 69% that we did not, that did not complete the task or provide any valuable feedback. Those that did, or written as well as just circling, you know, the different things, was that accurate? Is the peri-val accurate? I guess that's my next question. So is the feedback that we just gave to each other, is it accurate?
For that person who
For
gave
that
feedback.
person.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, I mean, like Josh said, we can only give our perspective of what I've seen you do
Okay.
on a professional level, and sometimes even personal level too, because it adds to our professional level. So it's only valuable, or it's just based off of my perspective of what I see.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I think the questions asked though too, sir, led people into a personal light, because I think, if I remember correctly, one of the questions says, does this cadet live honorably outside of ROTC? So that's now getting into the personal aspect of their life. So there's gonna be some personal issue or some personal whatever in their comment if they completed the comment section.
Is it okay